Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the artistic coin, the coloring activity right here. As you see right here is I went ahead and drew right here is a man. Of course, it's like on a drum it is, and based on say the American coin right here is basically on the guy. Of course, banging of course on the drums it was, and I remember that of course my parents, like my mom, of course, that she was mentioning of course at one time that this was one of your father's coins. It was. Is that knowing about if it it's still worth about 25 cents it is, but on here right here is most of us can see that it shows the year 1776 to 1976 it is, and knowing about, and then on the back of the coin a lot of times you see like which calls like the American eagle symbol, but then of course there's a man with the drum on there, and a lot of times I've seen these coins many times, but knowing about that you have right there is like what you call is like the silver coin right there. If it's known as like what you call is like maybe the silver dollar or something like that, and like if any of us have seen like maybe Sacagawea, or if it's anything related to like maybe it's like a South American, if it's like the North American or Canadian coin it is. But other than that, is talk about the types of coins though that knowing about that I know nowadays that you can actually buy some of the older coins. It's like that with the older coins it is a lot of times you can buy them and say add them to like which calls like a certain collection it is. But basically that talk about right here is that was something of course my mom and dad both of course that they like talking about is that knowing about that of course my parents had a set of coins of course that they kept around the house it was, and one of them I can remember that was a guy say beating on a drum it was, and I can still remember that one of those coins of course was a $50 coin, and I can remember a couple times they say that it's still good. I'm like that it's not like what you call a coupon to where that they expire at a certain time, and a lot of time anybody could probably think about maybe it's just a scam or something like that, knowing about if the money could be worth more later on than from what it was made back then it was, and knowing about really that I think that the part of the truth, part of the matter is as knowing about it seems that really that the only time more likely it will be worth a lot of money maybe is how you spend it, and I think that's true about how you spend the money. More likely that you may get more out of it compared to if you were to spend it some other how it was, maybe return it to the place to where that they say that from how they made the coin from anybody probably think about with nowadays with like which calls like the Department of Treasury it is knowing about with every coin it is, if it was made in like the early you say 1930s it was, that more likely that you have like what you call it maybe I think so if it's silicone or something like that they'll be made out of, or something anybody probably think about it looks just like metal, but on the other hand too, I guess to say that's something about it that's not just metal of course, it's made like on a certain type of material it is, and with the coins and anybody would make if we done our studies of course about how coins are made, but this particular design right here of the guy banging on a drum it was, and a lot of times I keep thinking about maybe it was something to do with maybe the Civil War that you have right here is the American flag colors, just like red, white and blue, and I don't know if they ever add like what you call like a purple type look to it. It's like for the past 200 or so years that knowing about that with nowadays with technology that thinking about they may have like maybe a new design type for like what you call like for like the for the American dollar for like the dollars and stuff like the dollar coins. But anyway, but talking about this guy right here banging on a drum, and I could probably tell anybody here that on the coin it shows is like what you really see is like what you call is like this silver carved to say image, I guess the logo it is of the guy in the drum, and you don't I guess I don't know if anybody really us know that really about who it is. It's in that picture. If it's just like what you call is like just a person who was beating on a drum for like what you call is like the stand for freedom. I guess if it was maybe right after the Civil War or for the Revolutionary War it was, but of course, if this was like what you call related to like any type of history project, and I don't even know what my teacher said would more likely be like that artistic talent was pretty good, but then of course you did not explain, of course, about the presidents back then. If it was President, say Roosevelt, or if it was Lincoln, who was president, about knowing about that the history about what the war was about, et cetera, et cetera. But knowing about that this person, this guy right here, beating on the drum, it is, and knowing about if he had a mustache, or if he had what you call like a puffy, say eyebrows, it is like right here, maybe some eyebrows, and of course the type of hat he was wearing, it's like what the hat represented. I can remember this whenever I was taking map testing. It was that map testing. If most of us can remember map testing, whenever we were in school, that they would have you, look at this, open up this book, and then of course they would have you write down like, what do you think this means? What do you think that means? And I can remember one time that I'm like that they give you, I think the maximum amount of time just to answer the questions will be at least 40 minutes, something like that, before it's like go to the next class. It was, and I can remember I had some other schoolwork that I had to do at the time, so I'm like, well, I don't know what this means. I'll just guess whatever. I just marked whatever and just turned it in. And I guess with most teachers, they could probably think about with map testing that they may just give you a book to read and be like, read the book, read the book, and then you'll be tested later. And knowing about with me though, that I keep thinking about with technology nowadays, even with the grandkids, probably thinking about that. It seems like history is a little bit more exciting nowadays than what it was back then, because before there was smartphones and stuff like that, anybody could probably think about maybe a type of coin design on a smartphone for like a screensaver. And knowing about, I'm sure that more likely there may be something like that around that. Have like what you call like, what does this symbol mean? What does that symbol mean? And use like what you call like the word coin right here. Is that with right here with coin, that it's basically money, of course, that you can spend. I guess you can spend it anywhere, of course, say in the country, and knowing about with the type of coin it is knowing about that but the type of design though. Exactly, that anybody could probably think about is keep this in mind. There's no matter about that the amount of money problems that of course we may face later on in life, is knowing about that the fact about if we can answer a trivia question of knowing about whose face is it? Whose face is that on a nickel or something like that, or maybe like on a second Chicana. A second Chicana, you say during the Olympic run or anything like that. Well, what's on who's on the face of this coin? And you probably think about like a ding 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 score, and like add 2 points, and then ask you another trivia question, and I don't know if I would maybe want to get on what you call one of those Jeopardy type shows, but talking about right here, like what you call is like a type of flag, and knowing about that. I would tell anybody here that I don't think I would get anywhere on Jeopardy. But let's just say if there was a flag, like this right here, to where you had, it's like the star, with most of us knowing about, the stars. It's like that, every flag, of course, I can go ahead and draw, say, maybe the stripes. If this is like you say the American flag, it is, but it's like, it looks a little bit different, of course, than the American flag, but just drawing like what you say designs right here. But basically, if we were to draw a flag right here, and knowing about this type of flag right here, maybe if it's a country that don't even exist right now, it's like talking about so far as between the past and the future. It is so far as talking about with history right here. It's basically talking about like right here is the flag, and with anybody will probably think about that with the flag, and go ahead and use right here is the green. And a lot of times that we can maybe think about with the green right here is knowing about that maybe about these coins is that the silver or prompts, the type of material that they're made out of, and knowing about the fact about that maybe that they have like there's certain reasons to why that they only appear like what you call it on an actual dollar printed coin, or maybe a dollar bill. It is of knowing about the types of money that you may see nowadays, of basically talking about, we say, what type of designs it is knowing about what does this color mean and what does that color mean, etc., etc. But whenever I was a kid, of course, I used to always wonder about the guy beating on the drum. It was knowing about that beating on the drum and knowing about that was a pretty old coin, and I know that they still make them, of course. Got that coin today, and they still make them. They may have their own new designs for them and stuff, but on their hand too, exactly about doing a study. Of course, I could maybe draw maybe a few more details right here, of course, for the guy on the drum, and say for the artistic coin, but maybe you'll draw like, say, the capital. Anybody probably think about if you want to add a little bit more detail to the coin. This type of stuff right here. You just type of stuff that more likely you don't see all of it, of course, on a coin. But anybody maybe think about if you had like a smartphone or something like that. You would be able to maybe see more based on the fact about that. That you'll be able to see more if you had like what you call like a smartphone. You'll be able to download images, of course, from from the Capitol, or any type of federal buildings. It is that the Capitol, say Washington D.C. or whichever. But anyway, that you have right here is like an example right here of the Capitol building, and of course you go ahead and add just a little bit of green, just like if anybody maybe thinking about that you had a type of art design that maybe you can think about. But talk about is a study about what the coins mean, and with anybody will probably think about that if you got a few old coins, it is and knowing about that they've always been worth what they were made to be worth, 25 cents, or maybe if it's Atletica Socano or something like that they are worth about the same price as what they were back then. It's like from whenever they were made, it is. But on the other hand too, that I could probably say to anybody that I don't know if I would say don't count on it, but if we were to do the math right, it is talking about, it's like 25 times 25. It's like talking about, it's like for 6 25 and 25 it is, and say 25 times 25 is say 625 it is. So what shows on there, but like it's like 5 times 5, 25, multiply that maybe times maybe another 20, if like you say 20 years or so. It takes 20 years, of course. How much do you think that you'll be able to save up maybe in 20 years? And anybody maybe think about you got me, because I had no clue. And like with most places though, that if you were to pay maybe for a retirement fund, if you were to try to save up for like what you call like a retirement fund, and knowing about that ever since you were maybe a little boy, that you've been saving maybe about 25 cents towards maybe a retirement fund, maybe in the next 40 years from now, and find out maybe that retirement fund is just not there yet, or whichever it is, but enough money collected of course from whatever company that you were working for, and knowing about that the types of skills and of course education that you got. But knowing about with me though, that I could probably tell anybody here that knowing about the history, of course, that I took, of course, was not related to anything that which you could do with your artistic skills. It is, but on the other hand, too, that knowing about is the fact about with money, though, that if we come to that situation to where that we it's like and then by the time we pay somebody back for how much we borrowed or something like that, and it's like, well, actually, I want it back in cash. I'm not going to take a coin, or it is anything like that. But on the other hand too, we can maybe think about from however we're paid back, if it's by cash or by coin, of knowing about maybe the type of American history that we can kind of keep in mind about that knowing about, besides anybody maybe think about what if it's counterfeit money, huh? But anybody maybe think about the type of history, of course, that we maybe study, of course, about about coins, or if it's a dollar bill, it is. And I keep thinking about maybe in the next 5 years from now, that anybody probably think about with pennies. Pennies are going to be so cheap to the point where it's like that they're gonna be worth nothing, especially in the grocery store. It is. And knowing about from whenever I was young, it's like knowing about from whose coins this is and whose coins that are. It is knowing about whose coin is that, and like talking about what you call right here is knowing about this type of coin right here. What does it stand for? It could be your mom's, or it could be your dad's, or your uncle's coin. It is from his coin safe. It is. And knowing about, if anybody knows about having a type of coin safe, it is, you gotta keep it locked up, and knowing about you got coins in there that are very valuable, and you've had them. They belong to your great grandfather. It is, or your great grandma, or anything, anybody related to the family it was. And knowing about the fact about that anything that maybe you may have learned in school. And I really just think the whole matter about is like a type of learning program, learning problem, a learning program. If we have learning problems, it is, but program, a learning program to where that if we were to do our studies, it's of course it puts, it's a money in the pocket. But other than that, it's like talking about with money in the pocket. But other than that, like talking about right here is talking about, say, for an artistic coin. Knowing about, it's like talking about, say, the guy on a drum. It is. And anybody can maybe think about, go ahead and maybe put some details right here for the hat. But I don't know, anybody maybe think about, hey, it's hard to tell about what the true color was. Knowing about that, on the coin it shows right here, it's like what you call, that silver color right there, of knowing about, if the guy was like what you call, like if he was from if he was born in America, or if he was born in in a certain country, and they're going to have anybody on on these coins. It's like maybe the Sacagawea. It is the Sacagawea. I guess if she was like if she was a American Indian, or something like that. But I'm like that. I have a few of those coins also. But knowing about these people that you have on these coins, it is knowing about the study about so far as American history, of knowing about is like so far as learning about the fact about the value about the coin. It is knowing about the fact about so far as history, as so far as between real or not, is knowing about, it's like this is what I learned, is knowing about the fact about with coins. And if anybody were to ask, it's like what's the next thing that maybe start with, like what you call is like between a K and a C, would maybe be like so far as not Kansas City, but KC. The next type of coin design could be what you call is like a Tulu Tulu a Tulu telescope. They say maybe the telescope, the telescope coin or something like that. The telescope. And I could maybe go ahead and maybe what you call put K right here. K for silent. It is telescope or telescope. But anyway, say for color school. It's like anybody probably think about. It's like where's the T? But anyway, telescope. I'm like the telescope, or if it's the color school, or if it's the color school, the color skull coin or anything like that. Color skull. I don't know if there's a color skull Kansas or whatever, but anyway, talk about anybody maybe thinking about that. Like any type of academy or college, it is that knowing about whatever type of names that they give them. More like it's for a reason, and knowing about that particular person, of course, and in person it is. Be like, yep, that there was a person on the drums. It was right after the Civil War was over with that they had their celebrations. Of course, it's like after whoever. It's like after the Civil War was over, and I don't know, anybody maybe think about it. It's like between whichever war was over. But Anyway, but talk about right there is a history, of course, about the artistic coin. It is basically from whatever I remember whenever I was a kid. It was of knowing about it so far as say for paying your dues. It is knowing about you for the amount of history and of course the math problems, of course, to be solved. And talk about between 1776 and 1976 so far. Talk about the artistic coin coloring activity.